The Jerusalem Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18 through chapter 17. You are to appoint judges and scribes in each of the towns that Yahweh is giving you, for all your tribes. These must administer an impartial judgment to the people. You must not pervert the law. You must be impartial. You must take no bribes. For a bribe blinds wise men's eyes and jeopardizes the cause of the just. Strict justice must be your ideal, so that you may live in rightful possession of the land that Yahweh your God is giving you. You must not plant a sacred pole of any wood whatsoever beside the altar that you put up for Yahweh your God, nor must you set up a standing stone, a thing Yahweh your God would abhor. Deuteronomy chapter 17. To Yahweh your God you must sacrifice nothing from the herd or flock that has any blemish or defect whatsoever, for Yahweh your God holds this detestable. If there is any one, man or woman, among you in any of the towns Yahweh your God is giving you, who does what is displeasing to Yahweh your God by violating this covenant, who goes and serves other gods and worships them, or the sun or the moon, or any of heaven's array, a thing I have forbidden, and this person is denounced to you, if after careful inquiry it is found true and confirmed that this hateful thing has been done in Israel, you must take that man or woman guilty of this evil deed outside your city gates, and there you must stone that man or woman to death. A man may be put to death only on the word of 2 witnesses or 3, and no man may be put to death on the word of 1 witness alone. The witnesses shall be the first to raise their hands against him in putting him to death. Then all the people shall follow. You must banish this evil from your midst. If a case comes before you which is too difficult for you, a case of murder, legal rights, or assault, or any dispute at all in your towns, you must make your way to the place Yahweh your God chooses, and approach the Levitical priest and the judge then in office. They will hold an inquiry and give a decision for you. You must abide by the decision they pronounce for you in that place which Yahweh chooses, and you must take care to carry out all their instructions. You must abide by the verdict they give you, and by the decision they declare to you, swerving neither right nor left of the sentence they have pronounced for you. If anyone presumes to disobey either the priest who is there in the service of Yahweh your God or the judge, that man must die. You must banish this evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear of it and be afraid, and not act presumptuously a second time. When you reach the land that Yahweh your God gives you, and take possession of it and live there, if you say to yourself, I will appoint a king over me, like all the surrounding nations. It must be a king of Yahweh's choosing whom you appoint over you. It must be one from among your brothers that is appointed king over you. You are not to give yourself a foreign king who is no brother of yours. Ensure that he does not increase the number of his horses, or make the people go back to Egypt to increase his cavalry. For Yahweh said to you, you must never go back that way again. Nor must he increase the number of his wives, for that could lead his heart astray. Nor must he increase his gold and silver excessively. When he is seated on his royal throne, he must write a copy of this law on a scroll for his own use at the dictation of the Levitical priest. It must never leave him, and he must read it every day of his life, and learn to fear Yahweh his God by keeping all the words of this law and observing these laws. So his heart will not look down on his brothers, and he will swerve neither right nor left from these commandments. If he does this, he will have long days on his throne, he and his sons in Israel. Amen. The Jerusalem Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 18. The Levitical priest, that is to say the whole of the tribe of Levi, shall have no share or inheritance with Israel. They shall live on the foods offered to Yahweh and on his dues. The tribe is to have no inheritance among their brothers. Yahweh will be their inheritance as he promised them. These are the priest's dues from the people. From those who offer an ox or a sheep in sacrifice, the priest is to be given the shoulder, the cheeks, and the stomach. You must give him the first fruits of your corn, your wine, your oil, as well as the first of your sheep's shearing. For Yahweh your God has chosen him out of all your tribes to stand before Yahweh your God, to do the duties of the sacred ministry, and to bless in Yahweh's name, him and his sons for all time. If the Levite living in one of your towns anywhere in Israel decides to come to the place Yahweh chooses, he shall minister there in the name of Yahweh his God, like all his fellow Levites who stand ministering there in the presence of Yahweh, and shall eat equal shares with them, no count being taken of the claims he has on the Levitical families for the goods he has sold. When you come into the land of Yahweh your God gives you, you must not fall into the habit of imitating the detestable practices of the natives. There must never be anyone among you who makes his son or daughter pass through fire, who practices divination, who is a soothsayer, augur, or sorcerer, who uses charms, consults ghosts or spirits, or calls of the dead. For the man who does these things is detestable to Yahweh your God. It is because of these detestable practices that Yahweh your God is driving these nations before you. You must be entirely faithful to Yahweh your God. For these nations whom you are dispossessing may listen to soothsayers and diviners, but this is not the gift that Yahweh your God gives you. Yahweh your God will raise up for you a prophet like myself from among yourselves, from your own brothers. To him you must listen. This is what you yourselves asked of Yahweh your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly. Do not let me hear again, you said, the voice of Yahweh my God, nor look any longer on this great fire, or I shall die. And Yahweh said to me, all they have spoken is well said. I will raise up a prophet like yourself for them from their own brothers. I will put my words into his mouth, and he shall tell them to all that I command him. The man who does not listen to my words that he speaks in my name shall be held answerable to me for it. But the prophet who presumes to say in my name anything I have not commanded him to say, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. You may say in your heart, how are we to know what word was not spoken by Yahweh? When a prophet speaks in the name of Yahweh, and the thing does not happen, and the word is not fulfilled, then it has not been spoken by Yahweh. The prophet has spoken with presumption. You have nothing to fear from him. Amen. The Jerusalem Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 19. When Yahweh your God has annihilated the nations whose land Yahweh your God gives you, and you have dispossessed them, and you live in their towns and in their houses, you are to set aside 3 cities in the land Yahweh is giving you for your possession. You must keep the approaches to them in good order, and divide into 3 parts the area of the land Yahweh your God is giving you in your possession, so that any homicide may be able to find a refuge in them. Here is the case of how a man may save his life by taking refuge there. If anyone has struck his fellow accidentally, not having any previous feud with him, for example, he goes with his fellow into the forest to cut wood. His arm swings the axe to fell a tree. The head slips off the handle and strikes his companion dead. That man may take refuge in one of these cities and save his life. It must not be allowed that the avenger of blood, in the heat of his anger, should pursue the killer and that the length of the road should help him to overtake and fatally wound him. For the man has not deserved to die, having had no previous feud with his companion. I command you, therefore, you are to set aside 3 cities. And if Yahweh your God enlarges your territory, as he swore to your fathers he would, and gives you the whole land he promised to give your fathers, provided you keep and observe all the commandments I enjoin on you today, loving Yahweh your God and always following his ways, then to those 3 cities you will add 3 more. In this way, innocent blood will not be shed in the land Yahweh your God gives you for your inheritance. Otherwise there would be blood guilt on you. But if it happens that a man has a feud with his fellow, and lies in wait for him and falls on him and wounds him fatally, and he dies, and the man takes refuge in one of these cities, the elders of his own town shall send to have him seized, and hand him over to the avenger of blood to die. You are to show him no pity. You must banish the shedding of innocent blood from Israel, and then you will prosper. You must not displace your neighbor's boundary mark, set by your forebears, in the inheritance you receive in the land Yahweh is giving into your possession. A single witness cannot suffice to convict a man of a crime or offense of any kind. Whatever the misdemeanor, the evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 is required to sustain the charge. If a malicious witness appears against a man to accuse him of rebellion, both parties to this dispute before Yahweh must be brought before the priests and judges then in office. The judge must make a careful inquiry, and if it turns out that the witness who accused his brother is a lying witness, you must deal with him as you would have dealt with his brother. You must banish this evil from your midst. Others will hear of it and be afraid, and never again do such an evil thing among you. You are to show no pity. Amen. The Jerusalem Bible, Isaiah chapter 51, verse 12, through chapter 52, verse 12. I am your consoler. How then can you be afraid of mortal man, of son of man, whose fate is the fate of grass? You have forgotten Yahweh who made you, who spread out the heavens and laid the earth's foundations, why still go in daily dread of the oppressor's fury, when he sets out to destroy you? What has happened to the fury of oppressors? The captive is soon to be set free. He will not die in a deep dungeon, nor will his bread run out. I am Yahweh your God, who stirs the sea, making its waves roar. My name is Yahweh Sabaoth. I put my words into your mouth. I hid you in the shadow of my hand. When I spread out the heavens and laid the earth's foundations and said to Zion, you are my people. Awake, awake to your feet, Jerusalem, you who from Yahweh's hand have drunk the cup of his wrath. The chalice of stupor you have drained to the dregs. She is not one to guide her of all her sons she has borne, not one to take her by the hand of all the sons she has reared. These 2 calamities have befallen you. Who is there to mourn for you? Devastation and ruin, famine and sword. Who is there to console you? Your sons lie helpless at every street corner like an antelope trapped in a net, sodden with the wrath of Yahweh, with the threats of your God. Listen then to this, prostrated one, drunk though not with wine. Thus says your Lord Yahweh, your God, defender of your people. See, I take out of your hand the cup of stupor, the chalice of my wrath. You shall drink it no longer. I will put it in the hand of your tormentors, of those who said to you, bow down that we may walk over you, while of your backs you made a pavement, a street for them to walk on. Isaiah chapter 52. Awake, awake, Clothe yourselves in strength, Zion. Put on your richest clothes, Jerusalem, holy city, since no longer shall there enter you either the uncircumcised or the unclean. Shake off your dust. To your feet, captive Jerusalem. Free your neck from the fetters, captive daughter of Zion. Yes, Yahweh says this, you were sold for nothing, and you will be redeemed without money. Yes, Yahweh says this, once my people went to Egypt to settle there, then Assyria bitterly oppressed them. But now, what is there for me here? It is Yahweh who speaks. Now that my people have been carried off for nothing, and their masters shout their triumph, it is Yahweh who speaks. All day long my name is constantly blasphemed. My people will therefore know my name. That day they will understand that it is I who say, I am here. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of one who brings good news, who heralds peace, brings happiness, proclaims salvation, and tells Zion, your God is King. Listen. Your watchmen raise their voices. They shout for joy together, for they see Yahweh face to face as he returns to Zion. Break into shouts of joy together, you ruins of Jerusalem, for Yahweh is consoling his people, redeeming Jerusalem. Yahweh bears his holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of your God. Go away, leave that place, touch nothing unclean. Get out of her. Purify yourselves, you who carry the vessels of Yahweh. But you are not to hurry away. You are not to leave like fugitives. No, Yahweh will go in front of you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. Amen. The Jerusalem Bible, John chapter 1, verse 19 through verse 27. This is how John appeared as a witness. When the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who are you? He not only declared, but he declared quite openly, I am not the Christ. Well then, they asked, are you Elijah? I am not, he said. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. So they said to him, who are you? We must take back an answer to those who sent us. What have you to say about yourself? So John said, I am, as Isaiah prophesied, a voice that cries in the wilderness, make a straight way for the Lord. Now these men had been sent by the Pharisees, and they put this further question to him. Why are you baptizing if you are not the Christ, and not Elijah, and not the prophet? John replied, I baptize with water, but there stands among you, unknown to you, the one who is coming after me, and I am not fit to undo his sandal strap. Amen.